Cliches retire, we set them free, shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. I am your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. I am so pleased to introduce you to Patricia DeFonte. She is our guest today, and she is a firecracker. So I know that you are going to hear some things that you probably haven't heard before from her, which is why I'm so delighted to have her as a guest today. So, Patricia, I'm going to hand it off to you to introduce yourself, please.
Sure, Patricia DeFonte, and everybody with the last name DeFonte is either related to me or married into the family. We're all from a very small town in southern Italy. I live in San Francisco, and I'm of and from this place. I am the founder of DeFonte Law, where we practice what I call estate planning with heart. And that starts with me, bleeds down to the team, and then is applicable to the clients. And we'll probably talk more about that later. I am married and I have 2 children, surrounded by dudes in my home life. And in my professional life, spend most of my time with women, with female colleagues. I love Godzilla. I love zombie movies, and I love to read.
That was already were unexpected. And I love to read too. So we do have that in common. I have to say, I was always, as a kid, like super afraid of horror films. So definitely, like, Thriller is about as close to zombies as I would like to get. So, yeah, so there's that. But that's very fun to know about you. Are you too young for Creature Feature?
I am so happy that you're asking me about creature features. So, my grandmother, who is from Italy, she never quite learned how to speak English. And long form movies were always a great way for us to spend time with each other. And she would guess at what the plot was. We would watch Creature Feature every single Saturday. And you know what's great about horror movies? You don't have to guess at the plot, they are so obvious that you can
Oh,
basically watch them with the sound off and you understand everything that's going on because it's just a bunch of nonsense. And I still do have nightmares about that guy at the very beginning during the intro, and they're taking the blood out of him and putting it into the guy in the bed next door. Ah, blood
yeah.
transfusions scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, not a fan. That's so funny. All right, here is your random question. So we are all dying to know, growing up, who was your favorite teacher and why?
Sure. I had a teacher named C. Joan Reed, the letter C dot Joan Reed. And she was my English teacher in high school, and it was
Mm.
advanced placement English. And there were some of us in the room who loved to read, and we were absolutely unstoppable. And there were other kids in the class, even though it was an AP class, that it was just a struggle. And so she was always making the text come alive for us. And when we had to read Shakespeare, she would have us come in outfits. When we had to read Beowulf, she had us come in outfits. She was always trying to engage us.
Uh,
You never got to just walk past her in the hall. She always wanted to talk about our crazy 80s outfits. She told me I had very bright Molly Ringwald red hair at the time. And she told me, always wear pink. There's nothing better on a redhead than wearing pink. Not conventional wisdom. She was just a real marker
mhm.
for me, education wise, and really taught me what to look for in an educator: a depth of enthusiasm, a
Mm.
way of meeting everybody exactly where they are, and relentless humor. In the 80s, guys used to wear these Dove shorts, these really short shorts. And she had a rule that, boys, if you're going to wear those short shorts in my class, you will sit like this. And then she would demonstrate that they had to sit with their knees together or their legs crossed. So she just wasn't having it.
Okay, that is very interesting. But I do have a place in my heart. I don't know that I ever had a teacher like that. But what is very interesting is that as a camp counselor, we subscribed 100% to experiential learning. And so we would act things out. We would have theme days because the summer camps that I was at, they were always actually like Jewish summer camps. So there was always a part of it that was educational, but you would walk through a Bible story and you would meet the characters along the way, right? And then you'd have activities to do. And those are some of my really fondest memories, even though I was at first involved, like maybe as a character or so forth, or like leading the kids through. But then as I became a director, I got to create those things. And in a lot of ways, because it's interesting, like you said, she was not like your favorite educator, like she was not having it. And I think that is very much also who you are, right? As we'll learn through this podcast, you are very much your own person. And I'm very excited to talk about your business because I think you've done some things in your business that are unconventional and super. I just want the listeners to hear. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from it. On the other hand, I think for me, that experiential learning, I think my coaching practice is informed by that as well, which is interesting.
I love
So,
that.
since I gave you such a buildup, let's get into it. All right. And I actually, maybe you can tell us, I'm not sure if you ever were in big law or in bigger firms, either growing up or when you first started your career. What did you think was going to give you success? What was the path that everybody said, oh, when you are this, you have to take this path? And then what have you learned that like it really was not right for you?
Yeah, I had this idea that we were supposed to keep our mouths shut and be really good at our jobs and keep our heads down, which is crazy because I grew up in the Go Girl 80s. We were supposed to go and take a bite out of the world. But the messaging at work was don't talk about how much money you make, grind, and then eventually someone will notice and you will get to move up a rank. It's utter and complete nonsense. It's just
Mhm.
nonsense. If you lift your head and you look around, the people who are moving forward, who are happy in their careers, feeling satisfied, and are being recognized for their contribution are the people who gather their roses, are the people who talk about their accomplishments, but not in a self aggrandizing way. It's, hey, I just did this. And that means I know how to do X. How do we take what I know and what you know to go and build something new, to improve the customer experience, to elevate the other members of our team? How do we use our learned skills to raise all boats? And I think those are the people who are doing incredibly well. Anytime I work with somebody, either as a colleague or maybe it's been somebody on my staff or somebody that I've worked with, it's when I see them just head down, sitting in a room alone, doing the work, thinking that is enough for fulfillment, for career advancement. I just like to go and shake her. Like, if you're happy doing this, that's great, but you're probably not because it's really isolating. It's
Right.
really isolating to sit there and hope that someone notices what you're doing. It's really isolating not collaborating with other people.
And I would say there's a lot of things to say about what you just said. I think the first thing that occurred to me when you said what you said is that, yeah, I've gotten fired from jobs for speaking up. I was like, it's not a coincidence that I own my own business. And I don't think that is the case everywhere. I think I just happen to be in places where they were not open to change. So it was a little bit less about opening my mouth, but I think making people uncomfortable, saying, questioning the status quo, like why do we do this way? And yeah, it did not go over. Let's just say this, it did not go over well. But on the other hand, I also think it was such a blessing, I think, to have that experience and then to really realize where I was really going to thrive, right? Which is really doing my own thing. My boss is much nicer to me now.
I think another thing is women is the sexual harassment where you're not supposed to say anything. I got stuck in an elevator with my boss and he told me, I had a dream about you last night. And I said, oh, was it a big stress dream? Because I worked in television and we were putting on a show. It was really stressful. I said, oh, was it one of those stress dreams where, oh my God, we're just not going to make it on time and the show's going to go live and we're all going to be standing there? And he said, oh no, it was about you. And I didn't tell anybody. Years later, different company, my boss accuses me of telling everyone that he's having an affair with my secretary. I said, I'm sorry, you're having an affair with my secretary? She's 22 years old. Get your hands off of her. And he tried to get me fired. I said nothing on the advice of other women. And it was finally one of my male friends who went to HR and said, you have to help her with this. This is insane.
Yeah.
All this weird messaging that we get about not making waves. And that had a huge impact on me. Years later, I was in a law firm and one of the junior partners said something sexual to me, passing me in the hallway. And it just so happened that everybody was in that little section. And I just stopped dead in my tracks and I said, hey, don't sexually harass me. Don't do it. And I was just so, oh, okay, I know where that came from inside of me. But it did put him on notice. You can't say things like that to people. And I just said this in front of everyone. And he didn't even try to say, oh no, what I meant by that was, he knew. And then he was gone pretty shortly thereafter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a
'Cause I think,
jerk.
yeah, he was. But I think there are so many stories of women who are the ones who get fired.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is really interesting because I think you have created something very special and very different in your firm. And I think one of the things that I love about you is I see you as somebody who really values action, right? Like you have really translated a lot of everything that you believe around how people should treat people, what work should look like, and what play should look like all of those things that you have very strong opinions about. You really walk the walk.
I try to. I stumble, but I find that when I stumble, I hurt myself. I
Right.
really do. And nothing is my own original bright idea. I do not have any original bright ideas. I listen to people who are much smarter than I am, who have a lot more experience than I do, and I believe them and I'll
Mm.
apply it. And not everything works for me, but the things that do work, I find are pretty universal. Think that people generally have it in them to work more than from 9 to 3 every day. We all have that slump at 3 o'clock. It really became obvious for me when I was a stay-at-home parent and I had to go pick up my kids at 3. And it was an absolute torture to have to do a whole other day of picking them up, taking them to their lessons and practices and running errands. And it was soul destroying. So when I opened my own firm, I said, we stop at 3. We stop. Because what we do is intimate estate planning. We can't come in to a meeting tired and distracted. We talk about death and taxes all the time, right? We're immune to the emotions of it ish. Our clients are not. And so it's really important to recognize who is at my firm. Women like me, women who have a lot of other responsibilities and women who have a lot of other interests. And so the way that we structure our work is Monday is quiet time. You set your table on Friday, which ends at 1 o'clock, for the next week, and you come in Monday knowing what you're going to be doing and quietly doing it. We do not interrupt each other. We don't ping each other and call each other and email each other. It's quiet work. We just saw each other on Friday. There's nothing to say. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, client facing. And anything that is not directly client related, we have vendors. We don't draft our own documents. We have a drafting attorney, which means we've got the best drafter possible who really knows the tech and the options. And then it's reviewed by the lawyer who worked with the client. And then there's another level of review after that. And so we've got multiple eyes on every client. And the lawyer isn't worried about getting into the software and doing this and doing that. Oh, they didn't upgrade. I don't understand. What about? No, it's frictionless. I want my clients to have a frictionless experience. I want my employees to have a frictionless experience. And I want to have, as much as possible, a frictionless experience. I don't take unscheduled calls unless it's my parents, my husband, or my kids. Everyone else can schedule with me. And I do, before I set my work schedule for the month, schedule in time to be with my people. And one of the things we talk about in the Friday meetings is, which days are you off? What's going on? Because everybody on my team, they need to go to their kids' events. They need to go and take care of their elderly parents. We're the sandwich generation. And so let's make sure that, so if you're going to have a very stressful meeting with your parents' doctor that morning, maybe you shouldn't be working that afternoon client facing. Maybe that's quiet time and we can do some adjusting on your schedule. I think that leadership is nonsense. I think I'm going to lead you. Leadership is listening and making accommodations and making sure that everybody has what they need to be happy so that you get the best result possible for the business. That's leadership. Leadership is not do this. I'm very tired of leadership in America. If you look at, like, for colleges, almost all of their slogans are blah, 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 and leadership. Like, maybe if you guys spent more time talking about collaborations, we would have fewer problems. If you would just shut up and listen, instead of thinking you're the smartest one in the room and you're going to lead everyone, I think we would have a calmer society.
All right, let me ask you this, because I think this is an interesting question. Is that the attorneys who work for you, have they gotten comfortable enough and into the system enough to be able to also identify for themselves and proactively say, so I've got this going on, right? Like what you said is like identifying those things for them, which I think it's a give and take, but I'm curious, are they subscribing to this in the sense that they now are empowered to do it for themselves?
So it's interesting because I thought 100% they were. And then we had a team building expert come in and we did disc profiles and we met. And it turned out that one of them was a little bit afraid of me because I have a 100% virtual firm and I have a big mouth. I tend to suck the air out of the room. And even though I've structured all the meetings that I'm not in charge, I don't bring the agenda. The only thing I say is, can I help? I know I'm a big personality and she's not. And learning that led us to doing an in-person retreat. We were in La Jolla. We ate way too much Cardiff crack. We ate Cardiff crack every day. And I would still like to eat Cardiff crack every day. It's delicious. But having that real time together, it broke something open. And now we're able to talk to each other really as people. And she's also more of a, yeah, okay, I can do it. Yeah, okay, I can do it. And my goal with her is for her to just say, no, that's ridiculous. This is too much. We need to think about this and really look at it. Nobody who works for me is 25 years old. These are all people who are full on adults, like, set in their personalities. And so sometimes people are going against type because you don't usually get to work in a place where you get to raise your hand and say, I think we can do this better. Or I am feeling overloaded and I'm not going to be able to give it my all. I need some help with structure, or I need some actual help. I need you to take over certain projects. So it's a constant effort of discussion, collaboration, and then sending in avatars, like my operations director. She's also a little bit scary. She's a military spouse and she's very tat sometimes. And so just making everybody aware of everybody else's personalities, the disc profiles really worked so that we know better how to approach each other. And taking the time to understand each other, that was so valuable. Even if so-and-so's personality would drive you crazy, but you understand. You understand now why, if you're shrinking away, they just keep coming closer instead of taking the hints. So it's been really helpful. Just digging deeper to understand maybe the thought process or the emotional process behind somebody's actions has been really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I'm DISC certified and huge advocate for DISC and for understanding tendencies and preferences towards behavior because, like you say, it really does depersonalize communication that we feel is directed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Try not to take anything personally. To the
Uh-huh.
point of people try to not be my friend anymore, and I don't even notice. I'm like, they're just busy. I don't know. Yeah, because I haven't talked to her in a year. I don't know. I just don't have ill will.
Yeah. I think this is a relative to how much thought you've given to developing your team and so forth. As a successful leader, you like, listen, you sound like you got it all figured out here. What's one thing that you still wrestle with?
When I was a solo attorney, I just had to worry about myself. And if I didn't want to work for a month, fine. I could just do that and it didn't matter and it was just me. Now that there is a team, I have to be obsessed with things like the profit margin and forecasts and growth. And it's overwhelming. And I do coaching around this. I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. I've really leaned into it, but it is an area that causes me an inordinate amount of stress and anxiety. Part of it is the nature of my business. We only do estate planning. So we can only see a certain number of clients every month, but we need to see that many in order to keep the wheels on the bus, to pay everybody their salary, hit all of our incredibly expensive, the vendors, the technology, all of the things that go into having a luxury level estate planning firm. And if you're committed to everybody here is going to work part-time, they're going to make a good salary, we're going to outsource everything that isn't mission critical, it's expensive. And so that's the part that drives me nuts. What I'm really happy about is that women especially are talking more about money. And I can absolutely go to lunch or do a Zoom with a colleague, and it's not exactly books open, but it is. So what are you paying yourself and how are you dealing with this? And did you get a better deal on that? And what's working for you marketing wise? And because I really don't believe in competition, I believe that if something's working for you, it'll probably work for someone else. So let's share and let's talk about it. But the money stuff is a perpetual stress. I guess I could go get a job and then I would just get a paycheck. But is my doppelganger out there where she's going to hire me and pay me a whole bunch of money and I only have to work part-time? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I find that is the most stressful area of my job and it creates the most friction for me. And even with that, I have a fantastic CPA, good financial advisor, an excellent bookkeeper, a wonderful director of operations. And the vendors that I've been using them for 9 years. And so the pricing that I get is probably more favorable than everyone else. And it's that loyalty that really pays off. I don't go shopping for other vendors every year because it's so boring, isn't it? So for me, that's the hardest part. And I have colleagues that love that part of it. But I just, I don't love it.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I certainly have clients who don't love it and don't attend to it. Their idea of a financial plan or a business plan is how much money do I have in the bank? And if I have money in the bank, then I must be doing fine. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. So the fact that at least, like you said, even though you've identified you don't like it, but you are stepping into it. And I think the other thing that is really noteworthy here is that you're initiating, not just willing to have the conversations, but initiating those conversations with colleagues. And listen, I'm not saying anything that a number of people haven't already said, but I think there is history, and guys go out on the golf course and they have these conversations,
Yeah,
right? And for whatever reason, obviously, we could do a whole episode on just the reasons why women don't naturally do these things. But I think it is important that we talk about these things, that, like you said, we help each other, that you don't have to open your books to a colleague, but certainly talking about some of these issues and profitability and all these things. Not only are you potentially helping somebody else, but you're also learning.
absolutely. And when I first started estate planning, I went to this really terrific estate planners conference where they talk about marketing and business processes. And one of my colleagues there discovered that he was paying his associates more than he was paying himself. And the whole thing was a house of cards and it came down. And I pay attention. I really pay attention. It's like this has to, if you're going to create a business, it has to serve you. It has to serve you emotionally, financially. You can't just be this nice person who's taking care of everyone else, but you're not taking care of yourself. Because
Right.
at some point, you will have to close your doors if you're doing that. And so that really pushed me into I need a great CPA, I need a great bookkeeper. I really need people around me who are also in touch with each other and understand the bigger financial picture, everyone, so that I don't run into a mess. If,
Right.
God forbid, something happened to one of my finance people, the others know everything. And so we bring on a new one, but they're not alone. I'm never going to be in a situation where a CPA goes, "What the hell is wrong with your books? Wasn't anyone paying attention?" I meet with my bookkeeper every month. Meet with my CPA every 3 months with my bookkeeper there. I don't need to understand the nuance of everything, but I need to have a great team around me to help me make sure that I'm on track. And all
You
that
know,
stuff is expensive, but you have to pay for it.
exactly. And it's interesting. Listen, I am a coach through and through and a trainer, but I had this idea many years ago. One thing that would be such a great business idea is to create teams like all the professionals that you need and have a quarterback so that people who aren't as savvy as you to create the team could just subscribe and then they would get all the team members that they need, that the system is set up that they're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
Because I think that is, in my opinion, in coaching a lot of businesses, one of the biggest problems is that, and kudos to you for having the wherewithal to create it, which is sure, I have a CPA. I have all the professionals in place. They just don't know each other or talk to each other. So they're not coordinated.
It's something that I see in my work every day. I talked to someone
Mm.
yesterday who's got money at Schwab, some money at Morgan Stanley, and then some other stuff. And the three advisors don't know about each other. And I said, none of them can give you good advice if you don't tell all of them about the other, and they don't all get to share information. And can I please introduce you to one person who can oversee all of this? Because if you don't completely trust any of them, you should probably dump all of them. Yeah, I will say that this idea of this having the team in place, I'm always thinking about building my business to sell my business. And I didn't know, but that is common wisdom. Don't start a business unless you can think about selling it. And I think that my vendors, my professional team are a big part of what will allow me to get a great price when it is time for me to step to the side or step completely away. I know who's going to buy my firm. I haven't met her yet, but she works in a big firm. She's sitting in the back room with her head down, diligently working, and she's slowly dying inside. And she would be so happy to step into a room full of women who know what they're doing, who are vocal about Kaizen and small incremental change and making things better for the team, for the client, for the vendors. Having everything in place and not having to build something up from scratch, I'm going to make somebody very happy someday.
You certainly are.
And if I bump my head, I'm an estate planning lawyer. I'm always thinking about incapacity, death. It's a going concern. I have, since I've built the firm, gone away for a month, and it worked out fine. I am allowed to leave. I am allowed to go away, and everything runs on rails. We've got all the systems and a great client experience. And that's the kind of stuff that lets you sleep at night.
Love that. All right. So if you could rewrite the rule book on leadership, what's one outdated belief that you would throw away and what would you replace it with?
Like I said before, I think leaders should sit down and shut up and do a lot of listening. I think that if you are insisting on having a meeting, you should not be the one with the agenda. Your role in a meeting is to provide assistance and insight. Your team knows what they need. I know people who have to go to a 9 a.m. meeting, full team meeting, and the boss starts off with, "What did everybody do over the weekend? What's everybody's favorite scary movie?" Nobody cares. Nobody is interested in these team building exercises. No one cares. What people care about is getting what they need so that they can go and do their job independently. And so that type of thing, of course, team building and getting to know each other, it's all really important. But I don't think you bake that in with what do we need to do in order to get the work done. I know a lot of people who just have to sit and struggle through these meetings. They bite their tongue because there's no culture of how can we make this better. We're constantly talking about how do we make this better. I think that there's this idea that, okay, I've gotten to the top of the mountain and I'm the boss now. And so I know. No, you don't. You know how to do the jobs that you've done before, but you don't know how to do the job you have now. I run a law firm. Am I qualified to do this? I hope so. We're still open. It's been 8 years. But there are so many things that I don't know. And so remaining coachable is really important. There is no, I'm at the top of the heap, I know it all now. And most coaches have coaches. Most really good coaches have coaches because they know that they have blind spots.
Although, I'm going to make an observation. You tell me if you think that this is true.
Okay.
I think that you can do that and sit back because you've created the culture. Because, as I'm sure the listener can hear, you have very strong opinions and you are very vocal around what the values are and how we do work here. It's
Mhm.
very clear. So, I think that is one of the reasons why you can sit back because you've so well defined how we do work here.
And it takes a lot of time and effort to come to those conclusions and to really figure yourself out. And I referenced the Goldman Sachs thing earlier. We spent a week on culture. And there was a speaker on Monday. You could go to office hours Tuesday and Wednesday. There were small group meetings, larger group meetings. We had to bring an object that exemplified our work culture and we had to
Mhm.
explain it to the group. And their point was, if you don't know what the culture of your business is, what are you doing? You're not going to be able to keep employees. You're not going to have good vendor relationships. This is a house of cards. This isn't going to work. You have to define what it's like to work here and what it means to work here, and everything grows.
So I think it's when you do that and you reinforce it and you're clear about it, then you can sit back and let people do their thing. But until you've done that, you really
And
can't.
it's also it's up to you to have a framework. Our Friday meetings are not a free for all. There is the
Right.
team meeting. We have a set agenda. But within that, I created the frame for it with my operations director and our admin. And it's morphed over time. We need to spend more time on this. We need to look at this. We need to make sure that we're doing these things. And then I meet with my operations director. She is 100% in charge, but she always asks me at the beginning, what do you want to get into? And I usually say, I have no idea. You tell me what we're doing. And then I meet with the lawyers, and sometimes there are things that I want to talk about, and I'll put them on the agenda, but it's always the last thing because what they need is client specific. What I want to talk about is conceptual usually. So it's not, okay, here we all are, and let's just popcorn a bunch of questions. It's strategic. It
Right.
is strategic. And as an estate planning firm, it's important for us to come completely together and say, oh, what's going on with the Jones matter? Mrs. Jones just lost her mother. So turn off the auto reminders, do this, do that, send flowers. Who's going to send the written card? Let's rally around her, send her the successor trustee manual, figure out what she needs. So and so just had a baby. These clients' child is turning 18. So and so had a breakdown in the meeting the other day. We need to really think about what our next meeting is going to be like with her because this is really hard for her. So that the entire team is approaching the clients with a certain vibe.
Right.
Because
Right.
it really depends how people take this work.
And you are bringing up a really good point. I have a client I'm working with right now that their meetings could literally be an email, right? So
Oh,
they
I hate that.
spend an hour and a half just reporting out, and they never get to the collaboration piece, right?
Yeah.
They never get to the solving problems piece or coming together
Mhm.
around what's coming up. And they have a lot of fire drills at their because they're not using their meat for these purposes. So that's one of the things that I'm working with them on is to really change what these meetings are. Here, though, is such an interesting thing, which I think you've done really well, which is there has to be a level of trust in order to come to a meeting and say, I need help with this. Can you all help me brainstorm a solution for this? Any number of like that I don't know.
Yeah, I was taught in my very first coaching day I ever went to, When the boss shows up in a meeting, the only thing that should come out of her mouth is, "Good morning. How can I help?" And then shut up. So then that sets the intention of you are supposed to ask for help. You are not here to prove how smart you are. Nobody here is judging anybody. The point of this meeting is because we're not allowed to interrupt each other during the week because that derails. It's stressful, right? I don't want to hear ping, ping, ping. I don't want to hear that. Nobody does. This is an opportunity for people to just put it all on the dance floor. I don't understand this. And the client said that, and I don't really get it. Or the drafting attorney structured it this way. I think it's weird. What do you guys think? Or that wasn't what I had imagined, and maybe I like this better. Another thing that we've really worked on is the difference between process and client experience. There is a wonderful book by Carrie Bowden called From the Outside In, and she has examples of businesses who really worked on their internal processes and everything was running so well for them. And then you walk into the store and it is empty. All the employees are doing exactly what they're supposed to do according to the handbook, and the store is completely empty. So we have always two tracks. We have our process, which the clients know nothing about, and you will never hear process or policy out of our mouths if you're a client. And then we have our client experience, and that's how we describe it on the website. Our client experience is you will meet with these people and you will receive these documents, and this is how you will be followed up with, and it's all about you, the client. It's not about what we do or we don't do behind the scenes, and really having a bright line demarcation between those two things. That book was incredibly helpful and really fixed my thinking because we keep improving things behind the scenes to make things more streamlined. So we have more time for like creative thinking and rest and togetherness. But how does that land on the other side? So we could have the client fill out this form. Nobody wants to fill out a form. I get that that's better for us, but that's not nice for them. So no.
Okay. But I love that.
It's
you know,
weighing it, right? It's really
Right.
weighing, is that like, if you were the customer, how would you feel about being handed something like this? And usually the whole team goes, oh, okay, we'll keep doing it. Okay. I know it's repetitive and boring. Or how do we outsource it? How can we make one of our vendors do it? How can we just pay to get that off of our plates?
All right. I've got two more questions for you. What's one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow your business?
Rest.
Say more.
Rest. The more time I take off, the more money I make, up to a point. If you're always in it, right? You're always in the office, you're in meetings, you're traveling to meetings, you're prepping for meetings or panels or whatever, you're in it and you don't have a lot of time to just think. I try to take every Wednesday off, and it's not to think about work, it's so that I'm not in the way of other people on the weekends. Try to go run all my errands, and or I just have quiet time reading in the backyard. I try to take a week off every quarter and then a longer break in the summer, and we close the office over the winter break. That's usually when something that's been back here in my brain moves its way forward and I have those aha moments. But even if it doesn't happen, you know what? I rested. I had a rest. I did things that made me happy. I saw people who bring me energy. So I think rest is critical, and also saying no. No, I don't want to do that. Just is wonderful. No, I don't want to do a presentation on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock for 3 hours. Why would I ever want to do that? That sounds absolutely horrible. No, I could do a Tuesday, but I'm not doing a Sunday. I think that's really important. And then I really curate the people that I'm around. I really like networking with women. It brings me a lot of energy. And so I will always give preference to a women only event. It really irritates me when men crash those events, and I will walk right up to them and tell them, "You're not supposed to be here. You're actually interfering with my ability to have a good time and do what I came here to do, which is listen to other women and figure out, how do I help them shine their light? Laugh, what are we doing?" So rest, saying no, and really prioritizing who I spend my time with are absolutely critical for me. Rest,
Mhm.
rest and no.
Okay. Love it. All right. So, last question is a two-parter. If you are going to feel any imposter syndrome, or if you don't love that phrase like self-doubt at all, part one is where will it show up for you typically? And part two is what do you do about it? So, what tips do you have for the listener?
Sure. I used to get really nervous at conferences. There's a whole bunch of people. And when you walk in, it feels like everybody knows everybody. It's, oh my God, this is just overwhelming. What I've learned is that probably nobody really knows anybody. And what I need to do is look around, see who looks interesting. Maybe I like her shoes. Maybe there's a booth that, oh, I don't really even know what that is. Or, oh, that's where the Godiva chocolates are. Let me go over there and just introduce myself, because most people are just waiting for someone to come and say hello to them. I never sit in the back of the room. I try to sit in the front and I talk to the people who are next to me, because the people at the front are the ones who are most engaged with the content. Or I've discovered they're the ones who are afraid they're going to fall asleep because they're just loud. So they put themselves right up front. So being in those environments, and I also allow myself to leave. If I'm just at the point where I
Mhm.
can't take any more chitter chatter interaction, I go. Not every room is a room that you need to be in. And sometimes I've absolutely walked into rooms, looked around. These are not my people.
Okay.
Nope. I'm
Hmm.
leaving. And it's not a matter of I feel intimidated. It's a matter of this isn't going to feel satisfying for me. I don't want to be here. I don't suffer too much from imposter syndrome. I'm in my mid 50s, worked really hard on myself and to be where I am and to have what I have. So probably 25-year-old me would have a lot to say about imposter syndrome, but not current me.
I think one of the things that you said is I give myself permission to walk out, right?
Yeah. I lead with just being friendly and asking questions. And then I'm also absolutely allowed to leave. And I'm also allowed to leave a conversation I don't like. Sometimes you're talking to one person or you're talking to like in a little group and you feel trapped. I just leave. I'm like, so nice to see you here. Just leave. You don't have to remain where you are if it's not serving you. Those conferences can be really overwhelming and exhausting. And I think another good tip for those is really look at who's coming. And if you're going to be a nervous wreck because you don't know where to sit for lunch, maybe you need a buddy. So just see if you can find a buddy to do that stuff with. And that helps.
And I think there's a couple of things, if I could just break that down, is that I think, first of all, really just accepting yourself for who you are and
Yeah.
really knowing yourself with no judgment. Just like, I know if I walk into a room where there's a ton of people, I'm potentially going to feel a certain way, right?
Mhm.
I know that walking in and finding somewhere for lunch is going to feel intimidating to me or potentially intimidating to me. So, I'm going to find a buddy, right? And you pre plan those things. Here's my tip. And I used to like, and I still can, I don't, but I can. I can work a room like nobody's business, right? And I can find something to talk to literally anybody about. I choose not to because that really isn't meaningful to me.
Yeah.
And I'm the person who really like to know you, which is a lot of what this podcast is about. I want the real and I want to establish a relationship with you. So going around and meeting 10, 20 people and having superficial conversations, it's just not that interesting to me.
It's really not interesting at all. And I always stay away from the person who's got their cards in their hand and it's, hey, Ted Jones, great to meet you. Ted Jones, great. I'm like, I don't want to meet you, Ted Jones. Like, you're freaking me out. Okay. Your energy is way off. Really, if you meet one person at any networking event, at any conference, that's great.
So I think have a plan. Here's a tip that I use because I don't love walking into a very full, very loud room
Mm,
with the perception that everybody already has sort of somebody to talk to, whether it's true or not, right?
mm.
When you walk in and it's very loud and it's all the hubbub and everything. So, one of my tips is that I will typically plan to get someplace. If I know it's going to be really busy, I'll get there on the early side.
Mm,
so that I can have a few connections and conversations
madness.
before the madness. Exactly. And which is interesting because I am an extrovert, right? Like I thrive on interactions with people, but because I don't like that superficial stuff, and when it gets very loud, my head starts to
Yeah.
buzz.
One of the great things about being an extrovert, like we are, is I have a lot of like really warm mom energy also. So the introverts find me and then I match them up with each other and I set them up in little two tops around the room. And if anybody ever says, I wanted to go to the event, but I'm really intimidated, just look for me. And sometimes I wind up at a table with 15 people. And that's a great tip. Just sit down. People will come over because you know what everyone wants to do? They want to sit down.
There you go.
Everybody wants to sit down.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think, again, give yourself permission to leave if it's too overwhelming,
Yeah.
right? And especially if you've gotten there early, you've had one, two, three, like lovely interactions, like your cup is full. Then just give yourself permission to leave. Or find a buddy and leave with them and go get a drink in a quiet place.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
whatever.
If it's a substantive conference and you're there to learn, really listen to the people who are asking questions. That might be a natural person for you to spend the break with. You got what you said and what I'm dealing with, and let's talk about it some more because you already have something to talk about.
Right.
If it's a networking thing, it's a multidisciplinary group of people. And so I'm an estate planning lawyer and I'm surrounded by financial advisors, insurance people, CPAs. And we're learning, but we're also networking. It's a little bit different. And so your energy is a little bit different and what you're looking for is different. And so what I like to do is listen for the niches. I really like to work with basketball players. I like to work with widows. I like to work with, okay, tell me what's special about them, not what's
Right.
special about you. Nobody cares about you. Tell me what's special about your work with that type of client. And you don't have to talk about yourself. You talk about your clients and how you help them. And that should be a natural thing also, right?
Right.
If you don't like talking about yourself, it makes you feel weird, just don't talk about yourself.
Right.
Talk about the work that you do and why it makes you happy. And if your work
Right.
doesn't make you happy, don't go to the conference. That sounds
Okay.
awful.
There you have it. All right, friend. You have given just some incredible tidbits. I've loved this conversation. I know that the listeners have gotten so many gems out of it. I so appreciate you. And I think really unconventional and unapologetic way that you go through your life. And like I said, I think there's lots of lessons to be learned. Friends, you have been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. I am your host, Kim Miller-Hershon, with Patricia DeFonte. You know what to do. You listen, you share, all the things, and go out there and be a better human.
Cliches retire, we set them free. Shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.